Thank you Skillshare for sponsoring this video. Alright, so what is the goddamn deal, YouTube? It is of course your boy Volandis back with another video. And in today's video, we're going to be doing a little bit of a tutorial, sit down, breakdown type of thing on how to make cinematic images on only using natural light. But before we get all the way started with this video, I do want to mention that I am very excited to be holding this 16mm Bolex film camera because we are working on another very short documentary to go along with my book that we're going to put out at some point. I know I talk about it in every single video, but yeah, I'm very excited. We're going to be shooting a short documentary to go along with it, all on 16mm film. Very excited to be using this and to be shooting with it. So yeah, just wanted to mention that in this video since we're talking about cinematics and all that stuff. So for my work and the work that I do, I personally like to call it cinematic documentary. I feel like for so long, a lot of the time people, they think of documentary work as being these candid photos and just like following people around while they are. I still do think that we're in a day and age where the photographer and the artist or whatever you're doing, the person in charge of telling a story is in charge of telling that story however they want to. So being an artist, you can tell a story from any perspective you see fit. So for me, I like for my photos to feel like they could be screen grabs from a movie that you're watching. I want people to see my photos and think like, damn, what movie is that from? So for me, there's three things that goes into making a image cinematic, and it's composition, lighting, and the color grade. And to me, contrast being the most important thing, I'm going to go ahead and say that composition and lighting is more important than the color grade, but the color grade does add to it. So with Hollywood movies, most of the time, and any kind of big production, most of the time, more so than not, I'm sure there's cases that this may be the opposite, but for the most part, a lot of big movies and a lot of just like productions use artificial lighting and just other sources of light to create, you know, their cinematic image or movie or film. But in this video, we're going to just talk about how we're going to use natural light, meaning the sun, and using it to our advantage to make an image cinematic. So as you know, you cannot control the sun. The sun is going to do whatever the sun wants to do. If it wants to go behind a cloud at a certain point in time, it's going to do that. It's nothing you can do about that. So using natural light as your source of, you know, cinematic lighting is a task in itself. So you have to use the things around you, whether that's buildings, trees, another person, blinds from your window, just whatever it is to make your image more cinematic. You have to kind of spot that on your own instead of creating it with outside light sources. So in itself, that's already a task. Achieving cinematic goodness. Cinematic's the word for this video. You can put a counter up if you want to, but I feel like achieving cinematic goodness in a video is a lot easier than achieving it in a photo. I wouldn't say that it's easier, but there are things you can do to get a quick fix cinematic type of feel. Like for instance, I could put black bars on this, change the color grade, add some film grain, and, you know, add some like cinematic type of music up under it, or like kind of sound effect up under this. And this is not, you know, perfect in terms of actual cinematics, but it does give the illusion that what's going on right now is, you know, movie feeling, and, you know, it just feels more movie-ish than this. So let's talk about lighting, because that's going to be the most important thing. Without light, this would be a black video. Without light, there would be nothing. So first of all, you need light. Finding light, whether it's indoors or outdoors, especially for me, because I don't feel like I've used, you know, artificial light on occasion, but for the most part, all of my work, probably 97% of my work, is, you know, natural light. Outside, indoors, whatever the case is, natural light. And just how I started finding out about the way shadows and the highlights affect an image, I started going out and I started looking for that, and I started placing my subjects in, you know, spaces that they would look the best and most cinematic in. And also sometimes your subjects, they just kind of fall into a spot and you don't have to do anything, and it's already, you know, set up for you. You just kind of got to find the composition, which comes second. But for lighting, I talked about this in a different video, but I never try to front face light anything. Like even with this video, the light is coming from the side of me at an angle, and not like I don't have the camera right here in front of me where the light is coming in, because then it would create a flat image and that wouldn't look very cinematic. It would probably look fine, but it wouldn't look as, you know, good to me as, you know, side lighting. So for me, I always try to side light or backlight or any type of lighting that comes in on the side and creates a shadow. I always try to do that within my work. I try to photograph on the side of someone's face that the shadow is on, or the side of the face where the shadow is casted. And for most people, that may not sound like the thing to do, because you want your subject's face to be, you know, lit very well, and you don't really want no shadows on their face, and you don't really want them to look shadowy because you want people to see their face. So like that's the reasonable logic behind that. But for me, I find that when you shoot on the shadow side of people's faces, and they do this in Hollywood too, but when you shoot on the shadow side of someone's face, it kind of brings more out of their face, and it brings just a little bit more life into the image, believe it or not. But it also makes that image look a lot more cinematic than just completely lighting someone's face directly. That's going to look flat and not very flattering. Finding that light and just placing a subject in that light, or having or finding a way that the light works best with whatever you're working with, is always going to make and feel more cinematic than just having something lit all the way. Adding depth, shadows add depth, and that's what you kind of want to create with, you know, the lighting that you're working with. This isn't necessary, but I also found that shooting film for me has made my images more cinematic, because there's some good dynamic range within film. So you know, if you look at movies and something's shot on the inside of a home, you can see a window, you could probably see out of that window very well. It's not like completely white, and you can see what's going on in the home very well. It's not completely dark. So, you know, that dynamic range is a good thing, and film has a lot of that. So yeah, shooting film has helped with cinematicness, if I do say so myself. Next thing is composition, which, you know, as everybody knows, composition is a very important thing within images. It's the first thing we see when we see an image, is the composition. What is in the photo, what's in the foreground, what's in the background, what's the subject, all of that. So definitely having a good composition, and the lenses you shoot with, that just goes into everything. Lighting, you know, if you shoot at 1.4, the lenses you shoot with, if you shoot an image at 24 millimeters, it's going to look a lot different if you shoot that same photo at 50 millimeters. So having the lens that works best for the story you're trying to tell and the cinematicness that you're trying to have is also a good thing. If I'm trying to tell a story about someone, and like what's in the background isn't that important, they're crying or something like that, I might shoot closer with a tighter lens just to get like their eyes, just to get that emotion, like the wrinkles on their face, anything like that. And if, you know, they're somewhere in front of their home and in their backyard, I shoot wider most of the time, because most of the time I'm trying to get just like a full story and a full picture. So for me, it just depends. And yeah, I think you just got to kind of choose that yourself. And lastly, the color grade goes into that. You know, some things look more cinematic when they feel darker for some reason. Like I think it's just up to personal preference, where whoever is taking the photo could feel like they're doing a good job, whether, you know, with their color grade at least. So yeah, that's that. So since we're in a moment of teaching and kind of just going over our, you know, artistic routines and stuff like that, let's cut over to the sponsor of this video, which is Skillshare. So if you're looking to learn a little bit more about, you know, photography, videography, whatever it is you want to learn, Skillshare is the place for you. But the cool thing about Skillshare is that it's not just a place where you can learn about one thing like photography. It's a place where you can learn about a plethora of things, whether that's photography, illustration, design, animation, cooking, anything you want to learn about, Skillshare has you covered. Skillshare is curated specifically for learning, so there's no ads, and they're always launching new premium classes so you can stay up to date with learning. The class that I'm currently watching is one by Andy J. Pisa, where he goes over finding your style. In this class, he goes over unpacking your identity with influences and experiences, cracking the code of what good means to you, translating your taste into what you make, and experimenting to develop your visual vocabulary. So we are giving away 1,000 free premium memberships, and if you click the link down in my description, you'll be able to sign up and get one of those free memberships. And it's less than $10 a month with an annual subscription. happen. So the first 1,000 people to click the link in my description will get a free trial of Skillshare Premium membership. And as always, thank you Skillshare for sponsoring this video. All right, so we kind of covered everything when it comes to taking cinematic images, at least the things that I look for when it comes to taking cinematic images. If you want to know a little bit more about this, please let me know in the description. Maybe I can make a part 2 video, or maybe I can go out with the sole purpose of just creating a cinematic image, so I can kind of go over these things in person. So if you would like to see that, just let me know. But that's going to wrap it up for me. If you are not subscribed to the channel, please do me a favor and hit that subscribe button. It is truly and gratefully appreciated. If you are already subscribed, I'm not talking to you because you already did what you had to do, but we're gonna get out of here, man. And it's time to, as always, let's go do some shit. You know the vibes.